Okay, so welcome to the Art of Selling Art. My name is Jason, and I started this program back in 2018. It was a small project to help a few artists who were in my circle on the craft of selling their art, right? The art of selling their art. And it turned into something a whole lot bigger. And we have a program and we have artists, and I'm doing my best to help artists to raise the foundations of the art world. So the better each artist does, the better we all do. And we have Doug Parks here, who has been a member for, I think, a year now, almost on the dot. And he's a photographer from California. And he joined us back in like February or March last year and has some wins. And we're going to share a little bit of that. And hopefully, you can take some of the lessons that Doug has learned over this time and use them to reinforce what you're doing for your art business and get a little inspiration to maybe try something new. So, Doug, all your links will be in the comments below. So tell us a little bit about the type of photography you do, and we'll start there.
Great. Thanks for having me, Jason. So I am a landscape photographer moving into the fine art world, but fine art landscape, not, specifically fine art itself. And been doing it for longer than I care to admit that I've been doing it. Although part of it is a result of retiring from technology about 15 years ago and understanding I could get back behind the camera without having to completely make a living at it. So that, of course, relieves a little pressure on you. But at the same time, wanting to make it a viable business, not just a hobby. So that part of the journey there was, of course, increasing my knowledge of photography itself, but then moving over onto the business side and the marketing side, which I did do a little bit of that in my past life in technology, but it didn't relate to art. And it wasn't someplace that I was really comfortable in. So that's why I searched out Jason and Tasa and have been moving in that direction to grow my business ever since.
So I want to touch on something you just said. You said you were getting into fine art, but not the fine art side. Like, what do you mean when you say you were doing photography but not fine art?
Well, for me, it's a transition, right? So instead of just making pretty pictures, which a lot of people do, especially with their phone, you just take your phone and you make a pretty picture. Now I'm more in the realm of ensuring that through the image itself and the processing of the image, that I am bringing people closer to the emotion that I had when I was taking the image rather than just the pretty picture itself. So that's why I kind of lean it towards a fine art kind of feel because I really, when it comes to art, at least for me, it's all about the emotion that I get from looking at a piece, whether it be a painting, whether it be a photograph, whatever that art form is that I'm looking at. So that's the direction that I'm trying to go, is not necessarily just that pretty picture, but something that when somebody sees it, I'm evoking an emotion in them rather than just, ooh, it's red, it's pretty, kind of thing.
I like that, and I think that is going to be or one of the defining lines between. All right, so I have this definition, right? You may have heard a few definitions from me over time about what art is, but I think that if you take a picture of a boat and it looks like a boat, then you took a picture, right? Then if at best it's a decorative piece of art, yeah, or a wall decoration. If you took a picture of a boat and it makes people feel something, then it's art. And if you took a picture of a boat and it makes people feel what you intended them to feel, then it's fine art. And I think that those are the tiers. So if you're rating yourself, if you're grading yourself, then I think that um, that is where that's how I look at my work. Does this do what I meant it to do? But not just does it make people feel things, but when I share it, do they feel the things that I want them to feel? And lately, I've been pretty successful at that, and I know that your work is moving. So I think that you've been doing that too. And actually, one of the things that we worked on when you and I first got together was culling your portfolio. right?
Exactly. Because uh, you know, as artists, of course, we can get a little too close to our work. And then, especially as a photographer, because I have that emotion that that wells up in me when I look at the image that I'm presenting, but it's not necessarily something that I'm getting across to the general public or the clientele that I'm trying to reach. So that's something that I definitely was a reason for me reaching to you, just looking at your artwork and the emotion that it evoked in me. It's like, okay, that's where I want to go. That's where the art in me is trying to come out rather than the engineer that I was over many years.
Yeah. So when you joined TASA, like what was what were your goals? What were some of the things that were like, okay, this needs to change and this is like what I want to hit. Like tell me about your intent for joining and kind of like did it come true? Like did I do a good job in helping you achieve some of these goals?
Of course, it's a long road, right? It's not there's no magic bullet that I'm going to get from anybody, but the journey since I joined TASA for me has been trying to at a big picture level, trying to get uh, gallery independent, if you will, and increase my sales, uh, not only through shows, because I think that becomes almost second nature as you move into the world of marketing. Although there's so many tools on TASA to prepare you for that show, how do you make your booth look? How do you collect all of the information from the people? So there's a lot of great information within TASA that led me down part of that path. But I also want to be able to do that through my website and through social media. So, increase the awareness of my work over time, not just so I scale better because there's only so many shows. I'm getting a little long in the tooth, so there's only so many shows that I'm going to be able to do because they'll wear you out. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I really want to get away from the gallery world. And one of the things that TASA taught me is, don't depend on a gallery because they are not the experts on your work. Number one, they may not even be experts in photography. Number two, and so they're not gonna be the people that are going to sell your work as well as you can sell your work. So that's why that was the initial intent when I came to TASA was move me down that path, get me moving towards that path, and of course, along with that comes revenue, so that way there I can travel and I can get gear and all of those things that we all want to do as photographers, especially in our growth.
Yeah, that's kind of the pain of being a lens-based creator is you got to take your lens places to create stuff. So it ends up being a really cost-heavy art form or maybe a cost-intensive art form. So let's start with the shows. Like I saw recently you did a show and you had a few sales there.
Yeah, it was one of the more successful shows that I've had. And so it was an open studio show. So a number of studios opened up and then they shared their studio with other artists. So I was a photographer, but I was paired with a mixed media painter, somebody that does gourd carvings. That sounds really low end,
Chords are
but
cool.
she's a really high end gourd carver. Uh, Pastels and a jeweler. So we came together as a group of artists, and that way there we could lean on each other when it came to number one, our Rolodex. Who are we going to bring into the show? Number two, make sure that our marketing was cohesive. going forward. And while some of that was done by the people who put on the overall studio show, because I want to say there was 48 studios involved,
Oh wow.
100 and something people, and it went over 2 weekends. So they had their marketing thing, but we wanted to make sure that what we were doing was marketing me individually marketing myself, but also making sure that my message was consistent with the message of the other artists that I was showing with.
The curation, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a great show. The it really Tassa led me down a completely different path than I was used to when it came to setting up my booth. So this was probably the most successful booth I've had because I had very large pieces, and I like to print large, but of course it's scary when you're printing large because you don't want to become your own best collector. But at the same time, I needed that in order to draw people into the booth. And then it helped me think about, okay, if they're coming from this direction, this is what they're going to see. If they're coming from this direction, that's what they're going to see. And how do I suck them into the booth given the physical limitations of the booth? So that was huge for me. I think the first weekend we had a little over 300 people at our little gathering there.
Oh wow.
And I had so many different conversations about the booth because I would ask people too, if they were just kind of walking by, I'd ask them. I figure it doesn't hurt to ask them, well, how come you're not going to come in and look at it a little closer? And most of the people just said, well, it's a photography thing rather than it's not the way your booth is set up that I'm not coming in. It's just that I'm not really interested in photography. So which led us down the photography as an art path, but and had some great conversations in that direction as well. But knowing, especially because there was one side of my booth that had to be closed off, I actually put a piece that was really intense in color at one end, so they had to come through the booth in order to see it. And that was hugely successful in doing that. So the module that's on Tassa about setting up your booth and curating your art was key to the success for that show.
And how did that show do?
Oh, it was amazing. I think I did a little, and I only participated in the first weekend, and my pieces don't sell for a huge amount of money. Um, but I think I sold six, seven. Now I'm having a hard time remembering. It was either 6 or 7, but large pieces for me, 24 by 36 size pieces during the show, but also, which is probably another key that was taught to me by Tassa, is following up. And to this day, I'm still following up. I have one more lead from that show, which was last November, and just talked to him last week and said, so when are you going to pull the trigger? And he said, well, I can't pull the trigger yet because now my wife is seeing your work, and instead of getting one, we're going to end up getting a couple pieces from you. So we're trying to decide, which 2 pieces. I know which one I want, and now she's looking at that. So the real key that is getting those contacts and following up. And so it's not only did I increase my sales, I think I sold right at 2,500. Might have been a little bit more than that in 2 days or 3 days, which was before Tassa. That was like a 6 month for me. So really, really good turnout and still paying dividends.
Yeah, the follow-up cycle after you get those leads is can be long. So I think it's great that you're still working on them. And every once in a while, I always reach out to old contacts and just be like, hey, here's a pretty picture, or here's something I'm doing that's new. So I always keep their phone numbers and keep distro lists. The other big thing you did with Tassa is you were doing some local marketing, but online for some developments that were happening near you.
Absolutely. That one, is paying small dividends to this point, but I know that, it's a work in progress as well. So what I've done is a small town that's near me is putting in 10,000 homes. And a lot of those homes are going to be occupied by people that are moving from the San Francisco Bay Area to the Central Valley. And part of the reason is that, housing is much more affordable. So they're selling their houses in the Bay Area and they're buying their houses for cash in the Central Valley. And so they have a lot of disposable cash and 10,000 homes. It doesn't take a genius to do the math and go, there's money to be made here. And along with that, so I've been, so sorry, I don't mean to leave that too quickly. Along with that, so what I'm doing is targeting that particular geographic area um, with Facebook messages, as well as still continuing to do my email blasts as well, which is a place that I'm continuing to learn with TASA. But the other part of that housing going in is all of a sudden there were like towers going in. And that to me went, oh, okay, businesses, who's going in here? And it's medical and it's, dental and all of that to take care of those 10,000 homes that are going in. And
Right.
so one of the things that you and I chatted about is how do I target that? How do I find out who that is? So I'm still very early in that path. Um, the good news for me is the one of the medical organizations that going in there, excuse me, is one that I'm a customer of. So not only am I trying to go through the builder and the architect and all that, but I'm talking to the people that I deal with as well to try and come from below and see if I can meet in the
Mhm.
middle and get some artwork in there. So that has been a very interesting journey for me.
Yeah. So what has been the result of your ads? Are you still running those ads?
I'm still running those ads. It's kind of a hit and miss. I definitely have made some sales through those ads from people that didn't either have seen me at the show or saw me in one of the galleries I'm in, and so then they see my ad and they go, oh, didn't realize he was quite that local. And then I'll meet with them over coffee and see what they got going on and talk to them about what they want and do mock-ups in some of the rooms that they're looking. So there's a lot of sales that are in progress there. Probably the one that's most exciting for me there is a woman who started buying pieces for the houses that she's selling. So when somebody buys
Mm.
a house from her, part of the package that she's putting together is, now that you're moving in, I want to give you this piece of art to go in your home. So we're collaborating more and more on that. So I think that one I think is going to pay pretty good dividends.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a rare find, that
Yeah,
person.
no, yeah, and I realize that.
Yeah. Well, I like that uh you recognize that there's more work to do, right? And there's kind of a process in refining a lot of things. So what I'd love to do after this call is jump on and maybe check out some of your ads and see how we can improve those. And you can always share your marketing in the Facebook group so that we can get you peer review before you put more money into one strategy or another. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about that because there is a lot of uh, potential for this for developing a collector community in this brand new community that you're marketing to. So that's really exciting. Um, if you can leave someone watching this with one piece of advice, and I'm not asking you to like promote the course or sell the course in any way, but or working with me, but what would you leave them with? Like, what is one takeaway, I guess, maybe from Tasso that you would leave to anyone, any aspiring artist?
I'd say, artists, I think in general are people that do not value their work correctly. You know, there's some painters that I know that at the end, now that I've started going through this course, it's like, so tell me, you're selling it for this much, and how much time did you put in? So you're basically slinging burgers for a living. You know, you're undervaluing your work. So I think the thing that I've learned is that you need to understand that your art has value and your work has value. And it's a matter of trying to figure out how do you extract that value from the collectors and clientele that you're after. And Tasa is helping me move down that path and understanding that my work does, don't be afraid to price it high. Uh, it has value. You have put in the work. You have traveled and everything else that comes to making these images. So don't undervalue your work. And part of that is also TASA, where, joining TASA for me, it was about a 2 week or 3 week process, I think you and I had in the beginning. And then it was like, okay, this is a no brainer. So I would leave them with keep an open mind, even though that you're an artist, that marketing and running a business is still key to the success, and even understanding what your success may be. And my success may be not be monetary. It may be, like I said in the beginning, that it's about bringing that emotion to people. That's how I measure my success. But if you want to measure it however makes sense to you, TAS will help you get to that point.
Thanks, man. Like I said, I wasn't looking for a specific task or endorsement, but I
Well, it's,
appreciate that.
it's hard not to. It's hard not to because I see what Tasa has done for my photography. So I'm excited that other people can get involved and get it happening on their work too.
All right, well, cool, man. Thank you. Let's let's continue the conversation, in a one-on-one since you're a TASA member, and I appreciate you jumping on.
All right, thanks.